Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Etheria Restart video. So in today's video, guys, we are going to be reviewing all of the heroes, so it's going to be a long one, strap in, and a couple caveats before we start. First of all, I am in the closed final beta, so that means I'm only like 8 days in. So all of these hero reviews that I'm going to be discussing, you got to take with a grain of salt. I haven't seen all of the endgame content. I haven't seen, where these characters might have, some hidden future potential. But I do think by playing a good chunk of the game already, I've gotten a decent understanding of, where the heroes can be good just based on their general skills. All right. The other caveat that we have to talk about is we're going to be discussing these heroes from the archive, which means all of their abilities are going to be fully leveled up. Leveling up skills is what truly unlocks a hero's potential. You have to do this through lattices. I've talked about this in prior videos, where that's kind of the most valuable resource within the entire game. So you do have to consider that whenever we're talking about these heroes. This affects multipliers, cooldowns of skills, percentage chances of landing debuffs, all of those things. So again, just kind of keep that in mind. All right. Now, with all the caveats out of the way, we're going to start with the rares. Now, there are some actual pretty good rares in the game. The problem is their base stats are lower than SRs and SSRs. And SRs and SSRs are actually pretty easy to acquire in this game, at least when you first start, right? All of your summons and things like that will eventually dry up. That's how most of these games work. But off the rip, you're going to get tons of summons, so you're going to have almost all of the SRs and a handful of SSRs that just do what the rares do, but better. So I do think that it's worth discussing the rares, because I'm sure in future content, developers will eventually release content, which we've seen in other gacha games in the genre, where you're required to use like one rare. So yeah, that's why I think it's worth discussing. All right, without further ado, we're starting with Andrew. So this is Red Andrew. There's also a Blue Andrew, which we'll get to in a second. But Red Andrew has his skill 1, which is a taunt. It's for 15% chance, and it's for only one turn. But taunt is a very interesting control mechanic in this game. Bosses, traditionally in gacha games, cannot be controlled. They can't be frozen, stunned, slept, any of those things. In this game, it's also the same thing. However, they can be taunted. So taunt is quite valuable when it comes to control. It's also good in PvP. I think a lot of people know that as well. But yeah, taunt is a good control effect for bosses. It keeps them from using their better abilities, and they have to target the hero that was taunted by them. So in this case, the boss would have to attack Andrew. So this is a good skill 1. It is only 15% chance, however, I think you'd expect that coming from a rare. Okay, his second ability is actually a passive, so it's not an active ability. This is just static. It's actually pretty good. It reduces the damage he takes by 30%. So he's just taking 30% reduced damage all the time. And anytime he's attacked, which plays into his skill 1 taunt, right? He gets a stack of this Wrathquake. And he can get this, he can get these stacks up to 10 times. And they can't be removed or dispelled. However, they do get removed whenever he uses his skill 3, and he consumes all of those Wrathquakes. So the Wrathquake increases the amount of damage that his skill 3 does based on the amount of stacks. So for each stack, it gives him 16% additional damage. So if it's at the max, he'll do 160% more damage. So this is also a good passive, 30% less damage, and he's able to increase his damage output on his skill 3. So his skill 3 is an AoE, does 240% damage, which is good considering it can get up to 400 with the 160% additional damage from the Wrathquakes. And it has a 70% chance to inflict a 2-turn attack down. So, like I said, the rares are good. It's just you're going to see there's SRs and SSRs that just do it better, and they're easy to acquire. But Andrew is a solid rare. Like where he can be used, you'll see this whenever you start playing the game yourself. The attributes are very important in this game. Red is strong against green. Green is strong against blue. Blue is strong against red. Typical Pokemon kind of thing. So you really need to play into the advantages of the elements. It's straightforward that the fact that he is a red element in any kind of green dungeon, he's going to be useful. Same thing goes for wave clearing, whether it's in campaign or in the Ember Tower, which is the Ember Trek, which is the tower mode. That's where you're going to be using Andrew. Like I said, you should not be using rares, but Ember Trek, certainly good. Any of the green dungeons that we have here, that's where you're going to be using Andrew. So, yeah, solid rare to start off with. I'll keep most of the rares brief, just because you can follow that same kind of logic if you want when it comes to the rare characters. Like, you're just going to be using them in areas that their elemental advantage is strong. The LD rares we'll talk about in a second. So, Cachi is one of the heroes that you start out with. It's literally one of the first heroes that you're probably going to replace. But let's talk. Okay, so 240% damage on the skill 1 with a 30% chance to decrease the turn meter by 30%. Now, granted, this is pretty solid. 30% chance is low, but again, skill 1, no cooldown. It's okay. Decreasing the turn meter by 30% is a large number. You will see in this game that the most valuable skills is 100% turn meter increase or decrease, so manipulation. So this is, again, like a good skill for a rare character on a skill 1. Skill 2, 100% turn meter and a 2-turn attack boost, and reduces the cooldown of all Animus skills by 1 turn. So she or he, I don't know which one it is, targets one of your heroes, automatically grants them a turn because it increases their turn meter by 100%. They can be at the very end of the line, and you can boost them up. And then on top of that, it reduces the cooldown of their skills, all of them, by 1 turn. Again, great ability with a 2-turn attack buff. This is a solid skill. The other thing that you need to look at is base speeds. So Cachi is 103 speed, which is slow. So like having this character at the front of the turn order, making them the fastest hero, and then boosting a really strong damage dealer to the front, that could be a thing. However, the base speed being so slow kind of prevents you from doing that. Okay, and then the third skill is a 270% damage multiplier to all enemies, so it's an AoE, decreases the turn meter by 35%, and a 35% chance to inflict stun for 1 turn. This is an amazing skill. A guaranteed turn meter pushback of 35%, and then also a 35% chance to AoE stun. Like, that's what I'm saying. The rares, great. Like, do not sleep on some of these heroes. They're going to be solid in future content for sure where they're required, and a 35% pushback with a 35% chance to stun is great. We're going to compare this character to another one that's one of the top tier SRs, which is Kraken. This is almost in line with Kraken's ability. So, yeah, very, very good hero. Cachi is very good. This is generally used everywhere. In bosses, the turn meter pushback is great. And then the stunning, even though bosses can't be stunned, the adds that they have with them can. So this is a great a great hero to use in boss fights early on as well. Like, I had a comment on one of my videos saying that they're going to just build SSRs. I think an SR and a rare hero challenge would be pretty fun to do in the future. You know, maybe later on I'll make a free-to-play account or something, and we'll go off of that, see how far we can progress. But yeah, Cachi is actually a good hero. Sybil is another hero that you start with. She is a blue affinity, where the first two characters were red. Okay, so her first ability is she deals 120% damage with a 40% chance to gain speed up to herself. She then has a single target ability dealing 3 hits of 100% damage. Another thing that I didn't know at first, but I thought this was 3 hits equaling 100% damage. It's actually 3 hits of 100% damage each. Coming from the game that I had before, it talks about like total damage, where this one is individual damage based on the hits. So you do have to kind of pay attention to that. So it's 300% damage to a single target. The damage increases by 10% for every 10% HP the target is missing. Like, this is an okay skill. And then the third skill is single target, 90% damage with a 50% chance to inflict defense down for 2 turns. This is okay. Like, Sybil, I think, is one of the worst rares where Andrew and Cachi actually had some value. This hero, I don't think, is very good. All right, Blue Andrew. Single target damage, 200%, and then it deals additional damage based on defense. So, you know, building him with attack and defense, more of a bruiser type. He has a passive where if his HP drops below 65%, his defense is then increased by 100, so playing into the additional damage that he can deal on his skill 1. And then he has an AoE skill 3, 180% damage to all enemies with that additional 60% defense multiplier. And then there's also a 50% chance to inflict a 2-turn defense down. So this is on a 3-turn cooldown if it's fully skilled up. So again, another pretty valuable rare. Doesn't do anything like special, but it's just good utility, decent bruiser, AoE defense down. He's okay. Asshu. All right, so Asshu. He has a single target, 3 hits, 70% damage each, with a 15% chance of each one to inflict a 2-turn speed down. And then for every 10 speed that he has, it increases the damage multiplier. So he's going to be a speed hero. Speed down is also another pretty valuable ability in the game. It's a very valuable debuff. So this is a decent skill 1. It is, again, low multiplier. Low percentage chance like Fire Andrew that we saw. He then has an AoE DOT, so this is good. 220% damage to everyone, and then has a 75% chance to inflict a stack of 3-turn DOT. DOT is very strong in this game. As you would expect, most DOTs in other games tend to be strong. They usually get capped. Right now, it is not capped. And the interesting thing that this game does is this is just like a blanket DOT. However, they do have another version of DOT, but it's tied to, like a hero's attack percentage, like base stat. So this is like a generalized DOT where it just takes 4% of the enemy's health. So this is a strong ability. DOTs are very good. And so 1 stack, so it's not going to stay on there. Well, it's going to stay on there for 3 turns. So you can increase the stacks as well. This is just if you have multiple DOTers where it just ticks up on the DOT instead of making a bunch of little stacks. Kind of easier to track. But very strong ability to have a DOT on a rare. Also, as well with a 75% chance. That is very high percentage. and is on a 3-turn cooldown, so pretty good. So then he also has a AoE ability, 260% damage with a 60% chance to inflict silence. So this is a very good ability in PvP. It's going to be okay for like wave clearing and stuff like that, so maybe Ember Trek. But yeah, this is again another solid rare that has good utility with the DOT, also has some control abilities, and a decent base speed as well. So 110 is pretty solid. All right, number 41. First up, skill 1. 230% chance, 230% damage multiplier with a 35% chance to inflict a 2-turn wound. This is unhealable in the game. So if you go up against any enemies that have unhealable, pretty solid. Her skill 2 is single target ally heal. Recovers 35% max HP, and then applies a 3-turn heal over time. This is a pretty good ability. Good solid heal, 35% of her max HP, which is actually quite high, especially for rare. And then it gives the character a 3-turn heal over time. So good utility here. Skill 3, on a 3-turn cooldown, once it's skilled up, it gives all allies a 35% turn meter boost and a 2-turn attack up. This is a very strong ability. Like I said, turn meter reduction and manipulation is very strong. 35% boost is quite high, and it also comes with an attack up boost, so that's quite good. You see here, the base max HP is really good. 13,000, pretty strong. So the healing is going to be a decent percentage. Like, you're going to get some pretty good value out of that. And you have some turn meter manipulation. So number 41, again, another strong rare. All right, Vice. So he also has a 1-turn taunt like Andrew, except this is a 30% chance on each hit, and it's a double hitter. So this is pretty good. He also scales, like, does additional damage off of HP. You're really not going to build rares for damage. He then has a passive ability where whenever he inflicts a debuff, so the taunt on his skill 1, he heals himself for 25% of his max HP and purifies a debuff. So with full HP, he heals an ally with the lowest HP. So if he's at the highest HP, if he's at max, he then heals someone else by 25% of his max HP. So that's pretty strong. However, I don't think that's going to happen often. And then he has an AoE, 120% damage, then a 65% chance to inflict a 2-turn attack down and push back the turn meter by 30% AoE. Again, strong skill. 65% chance is actually fairly high. The problem is it's tied to the attack down and pushback. Like, if this was separate, if the pushback was guaranteed and then the 65% chance was tied to the debuff, I think he'd be better, but still, solid hero. So yeah, as you see, guys, there was like 1, maybe 2 rares that weren't very valuable out of the 7. So you're going to see me talk about that a lot whenever we get in the SRs and the SSRs. Like, there's so much going on with these characters that none of them, in my opinion, are truly bad. Okay, next up, we got Dorothy the Wisher. So Dorothy's skill 1, she has a 20% turn meter boost to a random ally, and then if she crits, it increases the turn meter by 30%. This is really big on a skill 1. However, it is random. So if you're like trying to speed tune or utilize this in arena, it's not really going to work. This is kind of just like oh, nice, I got someone an additional turn boost. But when it comes to consistency, like on runs and stuff like that, you're probably not going to have it with that skill, but still a decent decent skill 1. All right, skill 2, this is really good. 50% turn meter boost to a target ally, and then gives them also a 2-turn crit damage up, and reduces all of their skill cooldowns by 1 turn. And then this can actually crit. So if you have 100% crit on her, it doubles the turn meter boost. So it's 100%, 2 turns of crit damage, and reduces all of the skill cooldowns. So this is similar to Cachi, except it does require a crit, but you also get the 2-turn crit damage, where you didn't have that with Cachi. You just had the reduction of skill cooldowns. So that's what you're going to see with the SRs in comparison to the rares. And this is what I was saying. The SRs do it better, and they have higher stats and all of those things. So awesome skill 2. On her skill 3, she has an AoE crit rate up to your entire team and gives them life leech. So 20% of the damage that they do, they'll heal themselves. And then if this ability crits, it purifies 2 debuffs. So this is very good. A cleanse, crit rate up, and life leech. So 2 additional buffs to your team, as well as purifying some debuffs. So for Dorothy the Wisher, I used her very early on, and even into the later stages of Terramaton. So one of the first gear dungeons that you get to, for sure. Being able to utilize your Lian, give her that turn boost to jump ahead and deal additional damage to the boss is really great. Crit rate up to allow your team to crit more often, deal damage, because this is kind of a race against the Terramaton as well. You know, some self-sustain, and he inflicts speed down on your team and defense down. So the purifying as well is also quite good from, what's her name? Kachi the Wisher? Oh, Dorothy the Wisher. So, yeah, strong SR. So, Kazami, she has a single target, 25% chance to inflict a 2-turn speed down. This does hit twice, so you'll have a chance to proc this 2 times at a 25% chance. So, a higher percent chance than what we've seen with some of the rares, which is usually around, 15%. So, pretty good. So then she has a single target 240% multiplier to an enemy with a 75% chance to remove 2 buffs from them. And then she also has a 50% chance to increase all animus skill cooldowns of the target by 1 turn. This is more of a PvP related skill. So it's like a pseudo silence. However, silence can be resisted. You can also have like immunity up and things like that, where this is just tied to the cooldown. I haven't tested this yet. However, in other games like this, the skill cooldown abilities aren't really sometimes tied to resistance, and other times you can cool them down through immunity. So that still remains to be tested, but this is very similar to other skills in similar games where it has that application. But this is a PvP kind of ability. All right, so she has an AoE, reduces all skill cooldowns by 1 turn, and applies a 3-turn speed up to all of your allies. So AoE speed increase while also reducing their cooldowns. This is like a PvP unit through and through, with really great utility. And decent speed, 110, like it's not the best. She's not going to be at the front of the turn order, but this is a strong skill for sure. Okay, Rin. So Rin has a single target taunt. She also does like dual multipliers off of her defense, and it's a 25% chance. So pretty high percentage chance on skill 1 for that taunt. So then she has a single target heal. Okay, she grants all allies a 2-turn defense up and shield equal to 270% of her defense. I don't know why it says single heal here. Threw me off a little bit. So it's a AoE defense up and shield. Very good support unit. Also gives this to herself as well, so it plays into that taunt, makes her a little bit tankier, gives her more defense, and allows for that to do a little bit more damage. On her third skill, she has an AoE ability, 160% damage, also scaling off of defense sometimes as well. And then there's a 75% chance to inflict a 1-turn taunt and 2-turn attack down. So very high percentage chance to land 2 very relevant abilities for boss fights. So this hero, I think, if you pull her early, also very good in Teramaton. And then later on in some of these challenges, like good in Teramaton, she's also going to be quite good in where is it? There's a shell dungeon that a lot of people might get stuck on. Kururu, he has like these jellyfish, but speed down and attack down is going to be really key here because he can revive some of his jellyfish. And then later on, I don't know if any of these bosses are green, but attack down and taunt, where I said most bosses can be taunted, I think that hero could certainly shine. So pretty solid utility support hero there. All right, so Dinah. Dinah is actually one of the heroes that has a rate up summon on the Freya banner whenever the game releases. So you have a increased chance of acquiring her. Okay, so skill 1. She deals 240% damage to a single enemy, so high multiplier on the skill 1, and has a 40% chance to steal 25% of the turn meter. So this is a pushback that also boosts her up. So in theory, if you get lucky and this keeps kind of pinging, you could, if she's fast enough, you could eventually not let the boss take a turn. So that's kind of cool. So then she has a unique ability. So you'll see this as we continue to talk about SRs and SSRs. But not only are there debuffs in this game, traditional debuffs that you see, like attack down, defense down, DOTs, sleep, stun, blah, blah, blah. Each hero could have their own unique kind of debuff. And for Dinah, this is an ability called Erosion. So she does single target damage, 140%, 2 hits. So again, another high multiplier. With each hit having a 80% chance to inflict 2 stacks of erosion. And if the target doesn't have erosion, it increases inflicted stacks to 3. So the first time you hit, it's going to inflict 3 stacks of erosion. If they already have erosion on them, it then inflicts 2 additional stacks. So what this debuff does is if the boss or, enemy unit has erosion on it, whenever it takes crit damage, it consumes 1 stack, and then it does true damage equal to 60% of the attacker's attack. And then it increases the attacker's turn meter by 10%. So if you attack an enemy with erosion and you crit, it's going to do additional true damage based on the hero that attacked the enemy. There's 60% of their attack will be true damage. So you're increasing the damage output pretty strong, and that hero also boosts their turn meter by 10%. This is a very strong, unique debuff. And then on her skill 3, she does 4 hits of an AoE, and then each hit has a 40% chance to inflict defense down. So an AoE defense down, 40% chance, but you trigger that 4 separate times, so you're most likely going to land it. And then it has a bunch of text here saying if the enemy already has defense down, it then inflicts vulnerable for 2 turns, and if they already have vulnerable, then you inflict a 40% chance of putting 2 stacks of erosion, which we've already talked about. Vulnerable is just a straight up damage amplification ability where the damage that they take is increased by 30%. So even if you have another defense down hero in your team, it doesn't matter because she will then also inflict either vulnerable or erosion. So Dinah is a great damage amplifier unit, and she's obviously fantastic in Terramaton. And any of the dungeons that are either neutral or negative affinity, she's going to be a very strong choice, because she's like a pseudo damage dealer. You're going to build her with a little bit of effect accuracy, so her damage isn't going to be as high, but she's still going to do decent amount of damage herself with her multipliers. But then, like, amplifying the damage of your main damage dealer is just going to be insane with her debuffs. So very, very strong SR. All right, so Turandot. She has a skill 1 3-hitter at 80% damage on each hit, with a 50% chance to gain a 2-turn accuracy up on herself. So she's going to increase her accuracy. And then on her skill 2, she has a 4-hitter, each at 70% damage, with a 30% chance to decrease the turn meter by 30% and a 40% chance to dispel 1 buff. So turn meter pushback and dispelling a buff on a single target. This is going to be more niche related on specific bosses that, stack up a lot of buffs on themselves. So you'll see early on there is a shell dungeon in the game right here, Fabian. So Fabian and Phoebe, this is a shell dungeon that you're going to want to farm a bit, because the 2 shells that they drop here, Twilight Knight and Black Flag, are super, super good, and they can scale into the end game. This boss is a light and dark boss, and their whole mechanic is to speed themselves up, get multiple attacks, and give themselves buffs. So this is where Turandot really shines, I think, early on. Especially with that skill 2 that we just talked about. So let's review the rest of her kit here, because her skill 3 is also good. So her skill 3 is an AoE attack up and defense up to all allies. So this helps your heroes that scale off of defense or attack. It also just gives your damage dealers additional amplification while increasing their tankiness. So solid unit here. I think a little more specific for specific dungeons rather than an overall good character. All right, Chiaki. So Chiaki is a healer. She does 240% damage to a single enemy, and then she heals 2 allies with the lowest HP percentage by 12% of their max HP. So this heal isn't that great considering it's based off of the characters that she's targeting HP, and that's usually going to be damage dealers or support heroes that don't have really high HP. They're going to have either high attack and crit damage or like higher speed and stuff like that. But the thing is she also applies a stack of Origami Guardian. This is her unique skill. This is a good ability. So whenever the ally unit that you have is attacked, it consumes a stack of this and decreases the damage taken by 35%. So this, like, just straight up 35% reduced damage. This is a very strong skill. And if this skill is leveled up, she's applying that to 2 individual allies on her skill 1. I've heard people say that this hero is not good. I 100% disagree. I've used her in Terramaton. She's allowed me to go up to like Hell 2 just after 7 days free to play. So yeah, very strong skill 1. Skill 2, she heals a single target ally 40% of her max HP. So skill 1 was their max HP. Skill 2 is a strong heal. So this is a big heal, and she applies 3 stacks of Origami Guardian. So they'll have that up for 3 additional, like three attacks. So yeah, this is a strong ability. And then her skill 3, she heals all allies by 24% of her max HP. And then for every 2% HP lost, the healing effect increases by an additional 1.2%. So the more hurt she is, the higher this heal is going to be. And she applies 2 stacks of that Origami Guardian. This is a great hero. There's some really good healers in the game, and you get one of them for free. So I think that's what diminishes her value when other content creators have talked about her. But don't let that faze you. Like, she is very, very good. She's a strong hero, in my opinion. All right, Fangus. So Fangus, single target damage, 280%, and then has a 35% chance to inflict DOT. So strong multiplier. On top of that, also with a DOT. So that's pretty cool. And at 35% chance, it's a decent percentage. So then there is a passive where if he can take an action, what that means is if like he's stunned or slept or whatever, this doesn't trigger. However, if none of those things apply, whenever an ally casts a damage skill, so anytime they're attacking, Fangus has a 50% chance to assist. So anytime someone attacks, he has the ability to follow up with an attack on this skill 1, which has a high multiplier and could inflict DOT. This guy's going to pump out a lot of hidden damage that you probably are underrating when you first read him. But yeah, this is a really good ability. And then his skill 3 is an AoE 250% damage with 100% chance to inflict 1 stack of 2-turn DOT and speed down. And this is on a 3-turn cooldown. This is a great ability. Like 100% chance of DOT is extremely valuable. And on top of that, throw in a speed down. This hero is fantastic. This hero is so good. Great damage dealer. With additional utility on the speed down. So he's not just like the DOT and high damage with the assist. He also brings a valuable debuff. So super strong SR for sure. Okay, next is Kraken. Guys, this is another one of those SRs that has a rate up boost on the Freya banner whenever the game launches. This hero is so good. He has allowed me to progress so far in the game, and I think if you see any other content creator talking about SRs, they will talk about Kraken. He's the first SR that I actually leveled up his skill 3. I used my my lattices on him, and I have not regretted it. So let's talk about him. So Kraken has on his skill 1 a 40% chance to inflict a 2-turn defense down. Great skill 1 ability. Defense down on a skill 1 with a decent percentage chance is very good. On his skill 2, he has a single target ability that has a 70% chance to inflict like a unique debuff that he has called Deep Frozen. So if they have this ability on them, this debuff, they can't take action or gain turn meter. So you can't like buff up their turn meter to have this fall off quicker. So that's pretty good. And then if the affected unit's HP is below 50% at the start of their turn, this effect triggers again. So it could actually be 2 turns. This is more of a PvP skill, but it's very, very strong. When it comes to PvE, it's not going to be used that often just because bosses can't be frozen. And you're going to be targeting the boss most likely with Kraken for the defense down on the skill 1. So this ability is kind of just useless when it comes to PvE, but very, very strong in PvP. Now this is his bread and butter. So he has an AoE freeze that has a 75% chance to decrease the turn meter by 35%. So 75% chance to decrease the turn meter, and then a 60% chance to do the 1-turn AoE freeze. And then if the target's turn meter is completely pushed back, so if they just went, or if Kraken is so fast that their turn meter is only 35% full, the freeze chances increase to 100%. So 35% turn meter pushback AoE is huge. That's great in PvP, and it's amazing in PvE for bosses and also adds. And then he has the ability to AoE freeze the adds on bosses. Of course, that's amazing in PvP as well. Completely negate a turn. This is huge. He's the only AoE freezer in the game right now, and freeze is a great control ability because they can't gain turn meter. So there's no turn meter buffing. A lot of adds in the game have the ability to boost the turn meter of the bosses. Kraken completely negates that. Sorry, that didn't make sense because bosses can't be frozen. Ignore that. Anyway, where he's used, he is going to be a hard carry in Doki Doki, especially early on, if you don't have, a green damage dealer. Doki Doki is a neutral affinity for Kraken, but Doki Doki actually doesn't have, she doesn't do any skills. She just has a bunch of, puppets that she controls, and they take 50% less damage, on a static damage reduction buff. However, the only way to remove it can't be removed. The only way to remove it is with a control effect. So applying the freeze from Kraken allows you to actually do some pretty high damage on Doki Doki. But yeah, he's critical in this dungeon, and this dungeon is really important because it has speed gear in it. And as we all know, in gacha games, speed is king, and it holds true here. So Kraken is going to be a top-tier SR that you're going to want to target and kind of build up as well. Okay, next up is Yang. So, when Yang crits, he increases his turn meter by 15%. Pretty low damage multiplier. That's whatever. His skill 2, he grants all allies attack up and crit rate up. So this is a very strong support ability. Decent. And then on his skill 3, he attacks 3 times, deals a total of 6 hits for 60% damage to a single enemy. And then whenever he lands a crit, he increases all allies' turn meter by 10% for each hit. And whenever he lands a crit, he has a 45% chance to dispel 1 debuff. So this guy is going to remove tons of debuffs and really big turn meter pushes for your team if he's critting. So he needs to crit, but he has that built in with his buff. The thing is this is it's a little difficult because the attack and crit rate up, while that's good, it doesn't it helps Yang a little bit, but he'll only have this up for 1 turn whenever it loops back around to his skill 3. So you want to skill 2 first, and then you'll be able to do the turn meter boost, dispel buffs. But the fact that this doesn't grant an extra turn, which we'll see on another character that we start out with, it's just it's okay. He's good, but I'd say he's more of a subpar SR than what we've seen. Okay, Rin the Unbowed. Single target. If the target's speed is lower than this character, it increases the damage by 50%. So this is a hero that's really going to be tied to speed. If we look at her base speed, 116 speed is quick in this game. So pretty strong. Skill 2, 260% damage. For everyone's speed that the character has, it increases the final damage by an additional multiplier. And then it also has a 70% chance to inflict 2 turns speed. So this kind of ties in to the skill 1 while making the target slower than this character. This is going to be more of a boss killer. And then on the skill 3, Rin grants herself a 2-turn speed up and then deals 2 hits of 150% damage to all enemies. So high multiplier for an AoE, and then everyone's speed that the character has increases the final damage. So this hero is just going to be cooking. Putting speed down on bosses and then speed up on your entire team. Well, sorry, not your entire team. On herself. She's very selfish. But probably a decent single target damage dealer. The thing is One of the better shell dungeons in here is... One of the better shell dungeons in here, after Fabian, you're really not going to worry about Whitney, but Nico Nana, this is where you'll have the ability to have these mythic shells. You can farm them. And Nico Nana has a unique buff where she has damage reduction. However, the damage reduction is reduced by 1.5% for every one additional speed the attacker possesses. So, like, this is Rin's specialty right here, is Nico Nana. She's just going to be pumping out tons of damage against this boss because her speed's going to be so much higher, and she's inflicting that speed down on the boss. So that's kind of like her bread and butter right there. So more of a specialist for sure. Okay, next up, RC77. Single target damage, 120% multiplier for 2 hits, and then a 50% chance to give himself accuracy up. On the skill 2, single target damage, 4 hits at 70% multiplier. The first 3 hits have a 30% chance to set the target's turn meter back by 25% each time. So every hit has a 30% chance to push it back 25%. And then the last hit has a 60% chance to extend all of their debuffs by 1 turn. Very strong ability here. Big turn meter pushback potential here. Very good. And then extending debuffs, solid. I wouldn't say like in other games, I think debuff extension tends to be pretty strong. In this game, I haven't found that to be like huge, but the turn meter pushback is really good. All right. So he attacks a single enemy on his 3rd skill, dealing 120% damage and a 65% chance to stun them. Then he does an AoE to everybody, 3 hits at 90% damage, and then that AoE has a 45% chance to inflict attack down and defense down. So this guy, like, man, talk about utility. Big turn meter pushback along with increasing debuffs, stun on one person, and then an AoE defense down and attack down. Like, man, this guy's kit has so much in it. He's kind of like a jack of all trades, but master of none. But yeah, very, very strong hero. There's a couple dungeons, shell dungeons that have like multiple ads, and the boss, does pretty good damage, has high defense, things like that. This hero is 100% amazing in there. Removing the buffs, pushing the turn meter back, controlling one of the ads or whatever. Very strong. Really cool unit. Awesome utility. Really high speed as well. So when it comes to PvP settings, sniping one of their threats to stun them and then giving the rest of the team, attack down and defense down to maybe survive. Pretty good. I could see him being more used in a tank setup where he just goes first, really reduces the damage of the enemy team, and then your tanks and stuff just eventually whittle away at them. Okay, Oboro. First ability, single target, 2-hitter, 15% chance to inflict a 2-turn speed down. Pretty good. And then if she crits, she has a 50% chance to inflict a stack of bleeding. So this is the other DOT that I was telling you about. It's not really a DOT per se because it's not tied to the enemy, but it is another form of just like damage over time, but it's tied to her attack. So you want her really high attack. On her skill 2, 100% chance to inflict a 2-turn defense down. 100% chance on a skill 2 with a high multiplier. Pretty good. I really like this skill. It's also on a 3-turn cooldown. So speed down, bleeding, and defense down already. So single target, 390%. This is a big damage multiplier. And then it has a 75% chance to apply 2 stacks of bleeding, and then on crit, she knocks back the target's turn meter by 45%. This is a huge turn meter knockback, and it's also on a 3-turn cooldown. This hero also very, very strong against Nico Nana that I just talked about. So you're doing some additional kind of pip damage to that boss on top of, the pushback, defense down, speed down. Like, this hero brings everything that you want in that fight. So really, really good. 113 speed is okay. Decent attack. Pretty cool character. Obol, this guy, I've used him a lot. He's really, really cool. Okay, on skill 1, he has a 40% chance to inflict 1 stack of DOT for 2 turns. So another DOTer, pretty solid. Here he has an AoE 60% chance to convert 2 random buffs into 2 stacks of DOT for 1 turn. Yeah, so in all honesty, like he's just good because of the DOT. This is good. I haven't found a dungeon yet. I'm sure there is a dungeon where a boss or the ads just have tons of buffs. So being able to remove those and turn them into DOTs, I'm sure is going to be really strong. But I haven't seen that personally yet at my account level. But in theory, this is a strong ability. And then on his 3rd skill, he has a 75% chance to inflict DOT on each hit. So 3 possible DOT stacks on the enemies. And then there's a 30% chance to inflict a 1-turn stun. So an AoE stun with the possibility of 3 stacks of DOT. Like, this guy is cool. He removes buffs. He has control abilities while also having built-in damage. Like, a great utility support hero that's also doing, some sizable damage over time. Okay, next up, Viper. Viper is also very cool, guys. I really like Viper. 2 hits, with the second hit having a 30% chance to silence, so that's whatever. But then also gains a stack of serpent skin, and we'll talk about this here in a second. And at the start of the battle, gains 2 stacks of serpent skin automatically. So what serpent skin is, this is a unique buff for Viper. Whenever serpent skin reaches 4 stacks, this passive is going to trigger, and instead of the passive triggering the skill 1, which we'll talk about it will then trigger the skill 3. So at 4 stacks, whenever Viper counterattacks, because that's what the passive is, we'll get ahead of ourselves here. At 4 stacks, instead of counterattacking with the skill 1, Viper is then going to counterattack with the skill 3. So very cool ability. On the passive, this is also very strong. Reduces damage taken by all allies from critical hits. So reduces critical hit damage by 30% across the board. So then if Viper is able to take action, meaning if it's not controlled, when an ally is attacked, has a 12% chance to counterattack. So the passive here, every time an ally is attacked, it doesn't matter if it's a crit. Viper has a 12% chance to counterattack with that skill 1. However, we saw if they reach 4 stacks, he's then going to counterattack with the AoE. But then when an ally receives a critical hit, the percentage chance goes up to 60%. So this can only be triggered 1 time per turn. It does have no cooldown. However, it is once per turn. All right, so now the AoE, third skill is an AoE with a 75% chance to remove 2 buffs and has a 65% chance to inflict attack down and speed down. This is very strong. This is a great ability. I've also used Viper in Nico Nana, decreasing the attack, decreasing the speed, which we've seen is important. And then also dispelling 2 buffs. Viper is certainly more of a PvP character, in my opinion. very, very strong SR PvP character, but does have applications in PvE. I'll tell you that Viper was critical for me to complete the main quest, Chapter 10. The last boss here is Helkid, and Helkid has like a unique buff where it's like this huge shield, which is really hard to break with damage, and then it grants immunity to everybody, which we'll talk about whenever we get to the SSRs. But yeah, Viper really helped me in that battle. So I built up Viper for that battle specifically, and then I've been using him, like I said, in Nico Nana. All right. Kazuyo the Reverie. This is an SR that I actually do not have. So on the first skill, has a 30% chance to inflict a 2-turn slumber, which is sleep. Now, sleep, traditionally not very good in games. One of the worst control abilities, because if you hit them, they wake up, and they still might get their turn. However, in this game, with sleep, whenever they take damage with slumber on them, they will wake up, but they'll take 25% additional damage. So not bad. So 35% chance to inflict that. She then has a passive where attacks from her against enemies that have slumber has a 100% chance to decrease the turn meter by 15%, and it will not remove the sleep. So when she attacks enemies with sleep, it won't get removed, and it pushes their turn meter back by 15%. This is a really cool passive. However, I think this is pretty hard to use in application, considering you're going to have a team of 4 or 5 heroes with you with this hero. So, like, your heroes are going to have single target damage and all those things. It's going to be hard to play around. But still, it's an okay ability. And then her skill 3, it's 3 hits to all enemies with a 65% chance to inflict attack down for 2 turns. So attack down, and if the target is already inflicted with attack down, you then have the ability to inflict sleep. So this hero is okay. Like, from a control perspective, I wouldn't say it's great. Attack down is an okay debuff, but I'd say this is kind of one of the weaker SRs for sure. But still. All right. Tsutomo, I think that's how you say that. My pronunciations are probably terrible. Sorry, guys. So just raw 240% damage. And then, however, this hero, now you'll see this on a couple characters as well. They won't have like a passive ability where it says passive like on the skill 2, but some of their skills, traditionally you'll see it on a skill 1 because skill 1s don't have cooldowns. So that means like it's a static passive ability. And this hero also does have a static passive ability where attacks on targets with debuffs guarantee a crit. So if he has 0 crit percentage on himself, 0 crit rate, but he's attacking a target that has a debuff on them, he will 100% crit. This is a really cool passive ability, and this guy can crank out a lot of damage because of that if you have your team speed tuned that way, because you can just like stack tons of crit damage, tons of attack percentage, and really utilize that kind of skill 1 passive that ties into his entire kit. So his skill 2 is a double hitter for 160% damage on each hit. And then each hit has a 60% chance to steal a random buff from the target. So it's not removing it, you're stealing it. This could play into the later game. I don't know if there's any bosses out there that can't have buffs removed. However, they might be able to be stolen. Now, that's speculation. So either way, though, 320% total damage is a pretty high multiplier. But this skill is kind of whatever, unless my speculation is true. Okay, skill 3, 2 hits of 240% damage. So that is a high multiplier. And if the last hit crits, has a 100% chance to inflict a 2-turn wound and block. So this is the first time that we've seen unblockable on a character so far. So it's the first SR that we've seen with unblockable and unhealable. The nice thing is if you can apply, some type of debuff with another one of your characters, he is then allowing himself to put up the wound and block even if he doesn't have any crit chance on him. And then he'll allow himself for another 2 turns at least to have, 100% crit because he's already applied debuffs. This is a really cool character. I will say that early on, I think green damage dealers are important, considering the game gives you a SSR AoE damage dealer that is fire. So she's really going to struggle against water units, particularly water bosses. So having a hero like Tsutomo is going to be, I think, kind of important. I'm really interested to test out his damage once the game launches, but I really like his kit. That guaranteed crit chance if the target has a debuff is really cool. I really like the character design. All right, Chiaki the Echo is another one of those SRs that has a buffed up chance on the Freya banner. So Chiaki the Echo, Kraken, and then Dinah. So Dinah and Kraken already got kind of rave reviews from me. Chiaki the Echo is no different. And the banner I'm talking about, guys, is this Freya banner. This is the limited banner that we'll have on launch. You see here the drop rate for these characters are right there. 4.5% chance versus, the 3% chance on the rest of the heroes. But anyway, let's talk about her kit because, yep, she is strong. Okay. First skill, 240% damage to a single enemy, and then it purifies a debuff from the ally with the most debuffs. This is an okay skill 1. It's not great, but still okay. Now, she has a passive ability. Before her turn starts, if she's not controlled and she's able to take an action, she applies a 2-turn attack up to 3 random allies. And then if those allies already have attack up, she additionally applies a 1-turn unique buff called Ave Maria to them. So, static ability, no cooldown on this. Whenever she's about to take her turn, she gives 3 random allies attack up. And then if they have attack up, she gives them this unique ability where their turn meter can't be stolen or reduced, and it increases their turn meter 5% after their turn is up. So she is boosting turn meter a lot and giving attack up. Now, the thing is, with this attack up, the fact that it's 3 random allies, you could target the same character all 3 times. So if you did that, it would give them the attack up buff, and then it would give them that 1-turn Ave Maria. So really cool passive. And then her skill 3, it increases the turn meter of all of her allies by 20%, and then also gives them attack up. Also, if they have the attack up already, it grants them Ave Maria. So yeah, like turn meter out the wazoo with the attack up buff. This is a great character, like I've said already in this video multiple times. Like, turn meter manipulation is huge. So she is a fantastic character. I will say, though, her speed is a little slow. So if you want to have her at at the top of the turn order, it's going to be probably a little tough. All right, now Gray is a hero that we start with, and Gray's actually pretty good for a couple reasons. So he has a 250% damage multiplier, and then on a critical hit, he increases his turn meter by 25%. Now, this is why I don't think Fang is as good as Gray. Gray was the character I was talking about when I was referencing Fang. He has a 2-turn crit rate to all allies. He does not have the attack up like Fang does, but he immediately grants himself an extra turn. So he's able to loop back around to this ability much quicker, and it allows him to use his skill 3 and reduce his skill 3's cooldown much quicker than what Fang would. So yeah, crit rate to all allies and then grants himself an extra turn. And then he has an AoE 220% damage multiplier, and then on a crit, he deals 120% additional damage and then also inflicts a 2-turn defense down. Now, the thing with Gray is he doesn't need effect accuracy on his skill 3. He just needs 100% crit. And if he 100% crits, he will put the defense down up. So Gray is really cool in the fact that he's a green character. I've told you green is important for damage dealers early on because Lian is weak against water. So he is your pseudo damage amplification plus damage dealer. So very, very strong character. You want to build him for damage and always to crit because his multipliers are higher. He boosts his turn meter if he crits, lands defense down if he crits. So great character, and he only needs 70% crit, so he's one of the easier characters to build. Very, very strong character, and they give you him for free. All right, next up, we have Sania. So, on Sania's skill 1, she deals 240% damage to a single enemy and increases her own turn meter by 30%. So, big boost here, which is super cool, considering she has a static passive. So at the end of her turn, she heals 2 allies with the lowest HP percentage by 16% of her max HP and purifies a debuff from them. Her healing increases for every HP she's lost. So her skill 1 boosts her turn meter by 30%. Every time her turn ends, she's healing up 2 of your allies with the lowest HP by 16% of her HP, which is awesome. And then on her skill 3, she applies 1 stack of this unique buff called All Powerful Protection, which increases the target's max HP by 20%. And you can actually put 2 stacks of this on them, and it can't be dispelled. So you can't remove it. And it recovers their HP by 20%. 20% of their max HP for an ally. So you're increasing their max HP with a unremovable unique buff, healing them by 20%, which you've just buffed up now with the all-powerful protection. And what's really cool is this ability can actually revive a character. So this is the first time we've seen revive right now. However, if you revive someone, this goes from a 3-turn cooldown to a 5-turn cooldown. But this is a super, super strong ability. Great healer. This is a top-tier healer, just overall, if we're talking SSRs and SRs. So great ability here. Great turn meter manipulation for herself with a lot of heals. You have the chance to revive someone as well. Like, amazing hero in Sania. I'm hoping you guys are getting the gist here. Like, there's tons of usable characters that I have not found, like, other than a handful of characters being bad. All right. Diting. I think that's how you say his name. So this is our first LD epic. So single target 260% damage with a 40% chance to inflict vulnerable. So we've seen this on, what was her name? Dahlia? I think it was Dahlia. Yeah. Oh, Dinah. So we've seen vulnerable on Dinah as well. So just raw 30% additional damage taken. Very strong ability on a skill 1. Also 40% chance. So then he has a static passive. So at the start of the turn, he marks the enemy with the lowest HP and then increases his crit rate against them by 60%. That is crazy. So it's only if he's attacking the hero that was marked by him. So if you're going up against like a wave of enemies, it's not going to be great, at least from a gear or shell perspective, unless it's just a single boss. This will be strong. And then 150% of any excess crit rate is converted into crit damage. So even if you're building him high crit rate, this allows him to convert the additional crit rate into crit damage. So amazing passive, amazing. 60% chance is huge. He's similar to the other green damage dealer that we saw, where you don't need to build them with crit if he's attacking someone with a debuff. Like, you can build Diting with just 40% crit rate if you want to. This is probably more PvP usage, but I'm sure it has application for bosses that don't have, ads or limbs or something like that. And then his skill 3 is a 450% damage multiplier. And then whenever he's attacking a marked target that we saw in the passive, so the lowest HP hero, he performs 1 extra attack with rapid fire, which is his skill 1. So this is a 450% damage multiplier, followed up with a 260% damage multiplier on a hero that is marked, that only requires 40% crit rate, or if you have 100% crit rate, gives excess crit damage. This guy, guys, he is a huge single target nuke. Do not underestimate Diting. Fantastic hero, and he's got some pretty high attack. This is a very cool character. I'm really excited to build this character come launch for sure. Okay, Cachi the Guard. Single damage, 2 hits, 120% multiplier, with a 20% chance to inflict crit rate down. Unless you're going up against a boss that I haven't seen yet, where, if they get additional damage, if they crit or something like that, this seems kind of irrelevant. Skill 2, 3 hits to a single enemy. Each one has a 65% chance to set the turn meter back by 20%, and then the final hit has a 100% chance to inflict a 2-turn speed decrease. This is a good ability. Big turn meter pushback, decent percentage chance, so you could actually trigger this all 3 times and push their turn meter back by 60%, and then increase speed down. So that's a strong ability for sure on the 3-turn cooldown. All right, on the skill 3, so a 2-turn defense up to all of your allies, and then when success triggers, what is success? Okay, I don't see that anywhere. When success triggers, additionally applies a 1-turn immunity, and when critical success triggers, extends all buff durations by 1 turn. Okay, so chance to trigger success is 80% of effect accuracy, and chance to trigger critical success is 55% of effect accuracy. Okay. I'm not quite sure what that means. I think maybe if this character has 80% effect accuracy, then success triggers, and if you have 55% effect accuracy, then that triggers? Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. Sorry. I can't deduce that. That hero seems very situational and very niche, though, by the way. Okay. Who do we got here? Victor. Single damage. 3 hits, 90% damage. If his HP is below 40%, he recovers HP equal to 70% of the damage dealt. Okay, so built-in lifesteal, a decent multiplier on the skill 1. That's 270% damage. And then if his HP is below, he kind of tops himself back up. All right, static passive. For every 10% decrease in his HP, his damage dealt increases by 15%. Whoa. Okay. So almost 150% damage multiplier if he's down to like 1%. And his damage taken also decreases by 6%. Wow. Okay. Very cool ability here. So not only does his damage go up, but then he also gets harder to kill the less HP that he has, and then he can top himself back up if he's at 40%. Nice. And then the skill 3, 4 hits of 110% damage. Wow, okay, that's also a high multiplier. Before using the skill, sacrifices 40% of his current HP, which is then converted into a shield. Wow, I really like this guy. This is really cool. This is a fun video for me because some of the heroes that I haven't even had a chance to look at, I'm now seeing kind of heroes that I might want to build. So that's cool. Yeah, this guy is very, very awesome. You want to kill him, but at the same time, if you don't target him, he's probably going to wreak havoc. So this is very unique. I wonder if this skill can kill him. Like if he's at 35% HP and on auto, the computer says, oh yeah, let's use this skill, and then he kills himself. Yeah, I wonder. But converting the shield, I also don't know if that takes place prior to this ability or not. But anyway, very cool character. I wonder what his damage is like in comparison to Diting, once he's at a low HP. But yeah, I kind of like that. All right, next up is Dorothy, which is another one of the characters that you get for free. So her first ability, 280% damage multiplier, healing the ally with the lowest HP by 150% of the damage dealt. Now, before we read the rest of the skills, I don't think Dorothy is very good. The problem is you're building Dorothy, even though she's a healer, you need to build her with attack. Like things scale off of her damage and her attack percentage. So you want your healers to be tanky, and Dorothy is like a damage dealing healer, so she doesn't stick around very long. And you see that in her skill 1 here. Now her skill 2, she heals an ally for 320% of her attack, purifies all the debuffs, and then applies a 2-turn Casket's Remedy. So when the turn starts, heals the target for 100% of her attack, and then any excess healing is converted into a shield. This is good, but again, like this unique buff is good. However, it's just like building a healer with attack is counterproductive. So good unique ability. Purifying all the debuffs is cool, but again, going back to her just being a damage dealer is rough. So she's got an AoE, heals all of the allies by 250% of her attack, and then applies a 3-turn Casket's Remedy to everybody. Strong skill, same issues apply though. All right, Valerian. Now, if you guys spend even 99 cents on the game, Valerian is given to you for free. Okay, so skill 1, 240% damage to a single enemy with a chance to sleep them. So sleep, like we said, kind of the worst of the control abilities, but a 40% chance on skill 1 is pretty good. On her skill 2, she gives a 1-turn invincibility to a target ally and a heal over time to all allies. If the target's HP is below 50%, it extends the heal over time by an additional turn. So this is pretty good. AoE heal over time to all your allies, with the possibility of having it be a 2-turn heal over time. And then she gives one character invincibility where they don't take any damage. This is a very strong ability. Again, though, I'm not quite sure where you're going to use this. Seems more like a PvP kind of hero. On her skill 3, she equalizes the HP amongst all of her allies. So this is the first time we've seen this. And then she gives herself this unique, I won't call it a buff or a debuff. It's called Hazy Dream. I've read this before. It's very interesting. So she's immune to control effects and turn meter. She can't take an action while she has this on her. So for 2 turns, she can't take an action. Whenever it's the start of her turn, an ally's turn, it grants them a shield equal to 12% of her HP and then gives them a random buff down here that they don't have. Then when they're about to die, she heals herself and removes the Hazy Dream. So this is a very weird character. So she balances all of the HP, gives herself this hazy dream where she can't take a turn for 2 turns. When an ally goes, grants them a shield, and when they're about to die, they still die, but then she breaks out of this and then heals herself by 20% of her HP while also granting, heroes a basic buff on their turn with the shield. So, it's hard to say if this is good or not just because it's so unique. But granting the shield, it's not like her turn is completely useless because the shield is valuable. It's tied to her HP, and she's giving them attack, defense, crit rate, or speed. The fact that it's random is interesting. You can kind of play into it if you already give someone crit rate up, at least it won't give them crit rate again. It might give them attack, but the bad thing is it might give your damage dealer defense, which might not apply to them. So, I don't know. This is a weird character. It's okay. The invincibility is a strong ability in PvP, but I don't know how much application in PvE. All right, last SR is Marvell. This is a newer character as well. I think they just released this character for the closed beta. All right, skill 1, 240% damage to a single enemy with a 50% chance to steal 25% of the turn meter. Pretty cool, being able to loop back around to his turn again on his skill 1, pretty strong. 330% damage to a main target and a random enemy with a 50% chance to silence. So your main target is going to have all of the damage to it, I think. And No, 330% damage distributed, I guess, amongst that target and a random enemy, and then a 50% chance to inflict silence on both of them for 1 turn. So you can target one of the heroes for silence, and then the other one will be random. That's okay. 50% chance also seems a little low, but okay. All right. AoE ability, 280% multiplier with 100% chance to inflict speed down and resistance down, and a 60% chance to decrease the target's turn meter. Oh, wow. Okay. Really strong skill 3 here. So 100% chance, speed down and resistance down. This is the first time that we've seen affect resistance down. And then also a 60% chance to decrease the target's turn meter by 50%. That is just huge. That is a big turn meter reduction. Granted, it is only 60% chance, but he's got some pretty quick speed. Yeah, this guy, I think, is a solid PvP hero for sure. The silence can't be used on bosses. Resistance down, maybe some application in bosses. The speed and the turn meter push is really good, and then he also has some turn meter manipulation as well in the skill 1. Skill 2 is basically worthless in PvE. Yeah, this is really strong character for PvP for sure. All right, all SRs done, guys. We are 1 hour and 25 minutes into the video. If you stuck around this long, congratulations. Now we're moving on to the SSRs. Okay, guys, now, SSRs, finally the best characters in the game. All right, Beyontin. And just quick warning, basically every character is good, so yeah. Okay, so she deals 240% damage to a single enemy and increases the turn meter by 25% for the ally with the lowest turn meter. So instead of her own turn meter, whoever's at the back of the turn order gets a big 25% boost. This is actually pretty cool, considering there's some speed tuning capabilities where she can be behind your damage dealer, and she can use her skill 1 and pump up the damage dealer that just went to kind of loop them back around quick. But this is a great skill 1. All right, skill 2. So she makes one allied animus immediately start their next turn. So 100% turn meter boost. Reduces their skill cooldown by 2 turns. Can be used on a fallen ally. to summon their spirit. So even if they're dead, she can revive them, reduce their skill cooldown by 1 turn if, they had 1 or 2 turns left on their on their like ultimate ability. It'll then reduce that, right? Revive them back from the dead, reduce their skill cooldown. If they're not dead, it just gives them an extra turn and then reduces his skill cooldown by 2 turns. Now, she has a unique buff called Underworld Flower here. So if she has that, she consumes a stack of it and revives the ally with 50% of their HP. So it can be a permanent revive if she had one of these Underworld Flower stacks. However, if she didn't, she can still revive that hero, but then they die again. So they just come back, do their skill, and then they die again. But if she has that Underworld Flower, she then consumes it, and then they stay revived. Now, what does Underworld Flower do? So you can stack it, right? It can be stacked up to 5 times. So each stack reduces damage by 5%, raw damage reduction. After taking an action, for every one fallen ally, it consumes one of those flower stacks and revives them, restoring 40% max HP and increases their turn meter by 35%. So she can stack these up, and they're just reducing damage, right, of her or whoever has this. And then, after taking her turn, if there's an ally that's dead, or even 3 allies, and she has 3 stacks of Underworld Flower, she's going to revive all of them, put the 40% max HP, and increase their turn meter by 35%. Amazing, amazing unique buff, and we're only on skill 2. Like, instant turn, 2 turn cooldown reduction, that's already a great ability. But then you had all the other things. It's nuts. All right, skill 3. Applies a 2-turn attack up and crit damage up to all allies, and then gains 2 stacks of the Underworld Flower for herself. So on her skill 3, this is where she's able to get those stacks, and it's 2 turns. 2 stacks. So if she uses her skill 3, she automatically gets a 10% damage reduction, and anytime an ally is dead, she's just going to revive them for 40%. She's amazing. What a great character. Decent HP. It's not super high. Decent HP. Speed's okay. Defense is pretty good. Like, man. The reviving, also with damage amplification, is really cool. Like, she's not a healer. She's just straight up support and like turn meter boost, as well as cooldown reduction, instant turns. Love this hero. Really, really cool support hero. All right, Mia. So, let's just look at her stats. So she's a decent speed, okay defense, good HP. 240% damage to a single enemy, and applies a 2-turn shield equal to 10% of her HP to the ally with the lowest HP. Okay, so she is just giving shield, no heals yet. And then for every 1 buff carried by ally animuses, this is a skill 1 passive, remember. So it's like a passive that does not go on cooldown, and it applies to all of her other skills. For every 1 buff carried by allied animuses, Mia gains 5% damage reduction. So every buff carried by other animuses. So if they have 8 buffs amongst your entire team, she reduces the damage that she takes by 40%. Whew! That is a tanky girl. Okay, and she already provides one of the buffs with a shield to the lowest HP ally. She then does 2 hits to all enemies, so an AoE 2-hitter, where each hit has a 50% chance to remove a buff and a 75% chance to push back the turn meter. Wow, that's also very good. So AoE pushback with dispelling buffs, very cool. Like it. And then her skill 3 Heals all allies by an amount equal to 25% of her max health, reduces all allies' skill cooldowns by 1 turn, extends all their buffs by 1 turn, and shortens the duration of all debuffs, except control effects. That is a bit of a bummer, because that would be busted. But man, that is one heck of ability too. Huge heal, reduces skill cooldown of all allies, extends their buffs, and shortens all of the debuffs by a turn. These SSRs are just so insane. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's cool. And like 40% damage reduction, eight buffs on enemies is super easy. I mean, on your allies, like Beyontin does that automatically. Like, there you go. Two buffs on each character, 40% damage reduction. That's awesome. Really cool character. Okay, Veronika. 240% damage to a single enemy with a 40% chance to inflict attack down for 2 turns. And then she also has one of these static passives on her skill 1. Whenever she is attacked, she increases her turn meter by 35%. Whoa. Wow. Okay, so anytime she's hit, she boosts her turn meter by 35%. And this can only be triggered 1 time per turn, but man, that is cool. So, okay, single target ability with a 40% chance on attack down. That's solid on bosses. And then she's just going to keep looping back around every time she's hit by boosting her turn meter by 35%. That's awesome. Second skill, removes HP equal to 13% of her max HP. So 13% of what her HP is, she removes that from all enemies. Whoa. Then applies a 2-turn shield equal to 24% of her max HP to all allies. Wow. So her HP is okay. Like, it's good. It's lower than Mia, which makes sense considering Mia is just a healer, where she's a support, but that's pretty high HP for a support. So the shields are going to be pretty solid, and she's probably going to be doing some pretty good damage on this ability. That's really awesome skill. Skill 3 deals 420% damage to a single enemy. Well, that's a pretty high multiplier. With an 80% chance to steal all buffs. Whoa. And then a 50% chance to spread all of her buffs to all allies. Probability calculated separately for each buff. Oh, okay. So every time that triggers is just like, okay, 80% chance, 80% chance. Oh, no, 50% chance. 50% chance for this buff, then 50% chance for this buff. Okay. And then, and apply a 1-turn soul ward where their HP will not fall below 1 point. Man, this has to be just like so, so exhausting in PvP. Like soul ward. Wow. Yeah. This is why, like, heroes like Veronika are the reason why Dispel buffs are a big deal. I think Dispel buffs tend to be more of a PvP thing. I haven't seen a whole lot of bosses that put, like, a bunch of buffs on them, minus 1 or 2 of the shell dungeons that I've seen. But, yeah, this is a pretty cool ability. I'd say it's certainly niche, though. But this second skill is quite good. And then, like, her passive on her skill 1 is very strong. But this seems to be more of a PvP unit, but a strong one at that. So Lian. Lian is your starter hero, and she's basically pure damage. I think most people know what she does. But she's just got, like, high multipliers with some lifesteal on her. And then every type of buff that she has on her, if she has 5 buffs on her, she's dealing an additional 30% raw damage increase. So you want to pair her with other people that give good buffs and then paired with, like, unique buffs so she can get up to that 5 and she'll hit really hard. Now her skill 2 is a crazy high damage dealing ability. So 4 hits of 160% damage each, but it's to random people. And then for each buff that she has, an additional phoenix is summoned. So those phoenixes also do 160% damage, but if they're hitting a target that was already hit, it does 20% less. So yeah, this is up to 3. So she can hit 7 times if she's got 3 buffs on her when using this skill. This skill is like her main damage dealing ability, and it's very good. And then her skill 3 is a very high damage multiplier, AoE 300%. And then it has an 80% chance to steal 30% turn meter from targets. So she can steal 30% from every single target and then like get an extra turn. So yeah, Lian is super good. She's a great fire damage dealer. If you guys haven't noticed, like right now, she's the only fire damage dealer that we kind of talked about. Down here, you kind of have like the sub DPS in Dinah. Fangus is a pretty good damage dealer when it comes to like the DOTs and follow-up attack. But like raw damage, this is where Lian shines. A lot of people have warned against, dismantling her because she's the starter hero and put it into someone else. I'm kind of with them where you shouldn't do that. All right, Khloros. So Khloros is skill 1. 2 instances of 130% damage to a single enemy, 260%, with a 50% chance to reduce all Animus's skills cooldown by 1 turn after attack. So on the skill 1, he has a 50% chance to reduce everyone's skills by 1 turn. That is cool. Decent damage multiplier as well. All right. 3 hits of 100% damage to a single enemy with a 100% chance to inflict a 3-turn chain lock. So this seems like a unique debuff for Khloros. Okay. And let's see here. What else do we got? Chain lock is when Khloros attacks a target, his damage dealt is increased by 30%. When Khloros is attacked by the target, it reduces the damage taken by 30%. Wow, that is a very strong ability. So just increases. Sadly, it is just tied to him. But still, that makes him pretty tanky against bosses and then also really good damage against bosses. And then his skill 3 deals 400 damage to a single enemy and inflicts Doom Toll. So another unique skill. After each cast of Doom's Research, which is the name of this skill, so every time he casts this skill's damage permanently increases by an additional 25% up to 100. Wow, so it can go up to 500 after 4 attacks. It is on a 4-turn cooldown. If this skill kills the target, they cannot be revived for the rest of the battle. And when a unit carries Doom Toll dies, the effect transfers. Okay, so this seems certainly tied to like PvP. Very interesting. So Doom Toll, after the target takes damage 10 times, Doom Toll is removed, and Khloros immediately casts this. Wow. Okay. Takes damage 10 times. So this could work on bosses. To attack the target, only 1 enemy can have that, and it can't be purified. Yeah, interesting, because this isn't tied just to Khloros. So you can pump up his damage pretty quickly, and it immediately triggers Doom's Research. Okay, so getting up to the 500% damage dealing, I think, is quite easy. And if you're going up against a single target boss, then man. So I know there are a couple bosses that have ads that they keep bringing back. I wonder if this can remove them for good. If so, that'd be interesting. But yeah, Khloros is very unique. I like him. He seems niche as an SSR, but very strong. All right, Helkid. This is the final boss right now for the current main quest. And he's good. Dealing 240% damage to a single enemy with a 50% chance to inflict stun. The chance increases by 100% if he has Shroud Barrier. Now, Shroud Barrier is going to be on his skill 3, but yeah, 100% chance to stun on the skill 1. That's just insane. Like, on a skill 1, 100% chance to land a stun. That's absolutely nuts. So, Shroud Barrier, this is a shield. Absorbs an equal amount of damage, and then it grants immunity of all debuffs for its, like, this is a built-in shield and immunity. This is a crazy unique buff. His skill 2 deals 300% damage to all enemies with 100% chance to inflict a 2-turn attack down. So 300% damage multiplier with 100% chance to inflict attack down. And then if he has that Shroud Barrier again, 50% of the damage dealt will be added to Shroud Barrier. So it increases your shield again if he uses this skill. So you're always starting with the skill 3 to give yourself the Shroud Barrier. And then everything else just amplifies or increases in percentage chances. So then the skill 3 is he deals 3 hits of 110% damage to all enemies. So 330% multiplier AoE. And then applies the Shroud Barrier equal to 240% of his attack. So yeah, this guy, he's a damage dealing support, so a sub DPS. This is an amazing character. Fantastic, really cool. Xiada. So now we're on to the blue characters. 3 hits of 90% damage to a single target with a 20% chance each time to steal a buff from the target. Once her Soul Flames fully evolve, it increases the chance to 80. So Soul Flame is on her passive here, so we'll read that. But if she fully evolves the Soul Flames, it goes from 20% to 80%, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so for every 3 buffs that Xiada gains, her Soul Flames evolves 1 time, increasing her attack by 18% and crit damage by 10, and you can evolve it 3 times. So after 9 buffs are given to her, she's going to increase her attack by, what is that, 36 and 18, 54? 54% and crit damage by 30%. Wow, permanently. And then once that happens, she's stealing buffs, 3 buffs at an 80% rate on her skill 1. Pretty awesome. And then her 3rd skill deals 220% damage to all enemies with a 60% chance to inflict a 2-turn defense down. Each time her Soul Flame evolves, reduces the skill's current and max cooldown by 1 turn. Whoa! And deals an additional hit of 80% damage. Yeah. So if you get her fully evolved, this is really cool skill. 300% damage, and you're using it every turn. That's awesome. It's like it has no cooldown. Wow, that is awesome. I really like that. That's a really cool character. All right, next up is Tiamat. Tiamat is what people tend to tell you to pick with your selective summon. I have some thoughts on that actually, but yeah, we'll talk about that in a later video. All right, so Tiamat swings her spear. 2 hits of damage equal to 10% of her max HP to a single enemy. So everything's tied to her max HP, consuming 8% of her HP with each hit and adding true damage equal to 100% of the consumed amount. So just based off her max HP and then true damage equal to 8% or 16% with each hit consumed into true damage. Man, okay. And then she also has this static passive on her skill 1, so no cooldown. Shares 25% of damage taken by other allies. So if they take damage, she's going to take 25% of it. For every 13% of max HP lost or healed, so anytime she loses HP or heals herself, she gains a stack of bloodshed, which we'll talk about. And then whenever bloodshed reaches 8 stacks, she enters ultimate form, healing 30% of her HP and immediately gains a turn. Yes, so her abilities are pipping damage from her, but every time she takes damage, she gains a stack of bloodshed. Every time she heals, she gains a stack of bloodshed. And you want to get to 8 so she can enter her ultimate form. Now, bloodshed says each stack increases healing received by 4% up to 20 stacks, and it can't be dispelled. So she's going to get additional healing every time she's healed to play into that 13% gain. So you need some kind of like, 9% heal gain, because bloodshed already gives her an additional 4%, so you can hit that 13% HP heal every time to get a bloodshed stack. Okay, and then ultimate form. So after 8 stacks of bloodshed, she takes on the ultimate form, gains and can only use Purge Day. So Purge Day is this ability here, and I think it talks about it here. Nope. Okay, loses increasing stacks of bloodshed at the end of each turn. So turn 1, 2 stacks, turn 2, 4 stacks, turn 3, 8 stacks, loses 16 stacks of bloodshed every turn afterward. When there are no bloodshed stacks left, exits ultimate form. Okay, so as you stack up bloodshed, what ends up happening is whenever she's in her purge or the Purge Day dragon form, she then loses the bloodshed stacks, and then she goes back into her base form. So what her dragon form is, it deals damage equal to 15% of her HP to all allies, so fixed damage, adding additional true damage equal to 13% of her current HP, and recovering HP equal to 20% of the damage dealt. And then there's no cooldown. So it's basically 28% of her HP to all enemies. That is crazy. That's a very good skill. It makes sense why people recommend her. So yeah, a lot going on there, but essentially every time she's hit or heals for a decent amount, she'll get those bloodshed stacks. When she has 8 of them, she turns into the dragon, and she does crazy damage based on her HP. So high HP. All right, second skill. 25% of her HP is consumed to apply a 2-turn heal over time and shield to all allies. Okay, recovers 15% of max HP. So that means anytime she takes a turn, the heal over time is going to increase her bloodshed stack because it's over that 13% to get the stack, along with the shield. The shield amount equals 120% of her HP. For every 1 stack of bloodshed, the shield amount increases by 5%. Yeah, so huge shields. Huge damage. Third skill, consumes 30% of her HP to deal 2 hits of damage equal to 10% of her max HP to all enemies, with a 50% chance to inflict a turn 1 taunt. So great in PvE, great in PvP. As I had mentioned before, Blue. So the interesting thing with Blue is, at least what I have seen, if you don't have like Bjorn, dealing damage with blue heroes is pretty tough. I haven't found like a true standout. I heard Rosa's pretty good as well. But yeah, having Tiamat be like a support healer with damage and control, like, it makes sense why people suggest her. And her HP, like base HP, is already huge. So, I mean, it makes sense. All right, Lingluo. This is another character that you get for free after 7 days if you complete her missions. And she's a very strong healer. So she deals 240% damage to a single enemy, heals 2 allies with the lowest HP based on 50% of her max HP, and then she has one of those static skill 1 passives where before each healing, she has a 65% chance to purify 1 debuff from the target. If the target has no debuffs, has a 65% chance to apply a 2-turn Whale Prayer. And what Whale Prayer does at the start of the turn, it recovers 5% of max HP up to 5 stacks. So, if one of your characters has a debuff, she has a 65% chance to purify it right before their turn. This is really great against control effects like freeze, stun. All of that stuff can be purified with this Rockstar ability prior to them going. This is a huge ability, so really awesome passive on her skill 1. Her skill 2, she heals all allies by 16%, extends their buffs by a turn, and then receives an additional heal for 20% of their max HP. So the first heal is on their max HP. It extends their buff. So if they have like an HP increase buff or whatever, it plays in and then it'll heal again for 20%. This heal is not very good because it's tied to your ally's HP and not hers. But her skill 3 is very good. So she grants a 1-turn immunity to all allies, then heals all allies 2 times for 14% of their max HP. And then for each buff the target has, the healing effect increases by an additional 20%. So she gives them immunity, so it's already going to increase by an additional 20. So it's like 34% healing. This is a big heal. So the more buffs that they have as well, the better. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, really, really strong healer for your team. Like every turn being able to purify a debuff, because it's a 0-turn cooldown. Like this is huge. The heals themselves are good. This third skill is great. The second skill is definitely not as good, but extending buffs is pretty strong, which also ties into the big AoE heal. So Lingluo is a fantastic hero. You're going to use her a lot, especially whenever you get her. With the fire dungeons, you're going to struggle in them until you get Lingluo. At least I did. But once you get her, your progression then just skyrockets again. Okay, Bjorn. So Bjorn's actually really unique. I like Bjorn a lot. So he has a 300% damage multiplier on his skill 1 and recovers HP equal to 60% of the damage dealt. So big lifesteal on his skill 1. And then he has a passive where at the start of the battle, he increases his max HP by 500% of his attack. Each attack also deals additional damage equal to 30% of his max HP. So you want to stack as much attack as you possibly can, because the more attack that he has at the start of that battle, he's granting himself a huge 5% buff to his HP that increases his damage. Now, the caveat here is he cannot land crits. Now, that's a good thing and a bad thing, because it makes him much easier to build. You just stack as much attack and HP on him to allow his damage to be really solid, which is good. And there's already a couple heroes that we've seen that, like, on crits, they'll counterattack and stuff like that. So as a PvP hero to get around that is also pretty good. Okay, and then his skill 3, if there are 4 or more enemy units, he deals 440% damage to all of them with a 100% chance to dispel a buff. And then for every 1 enemy unit defeated, he launches 1 extra attack, each dealing 100% damage, and this attack ignores target's passive skills. So if they have some kind of counterattack or damage reduction on passive skills, Bjorn will negate that. Now the thing is, it has to say passive, like down here. It can't be one of those like skill 1 passives. At least I'm pretty sure it doesn't happen like that. So yeah, just keep that in mind. All right, Tsukiyo Mi. Single target, 320% of her defense. So purely defense scaling. This is not like she deals damage based on attack and then has another multiplier based on defense, which we've seen in SR and rare units. This is purely defense. So her attack stat does absolutely nothing. So 320% of her defense to a single enemy and increases the turn meter of the ally with the highest attack by 25%. So boosting up your attack damage dealer by 25%. High multiplier, that's good. So she does 320% of her defense to all enemies, so 320% AoE with a 45% chance to inflict silence on them. Very good. This skill also reduces all skill cooldowns for all allies. So an AoE skill cooldown, 45% chance AoE control with a solid multiplier. I'm liking it already. And then skill 3. She increases a target ally's turn meter by 100% and her own by 35%. Wow, so 2 big boosts, and applies attack up and speed up to all allies for 2 turns. So big boost to one ally, another really strong boost to herself, and then attack and speed to all allies. That is a very, very cool ability. Wow. Solid support hero here. I really like her. And with her scaling off of defense, she can be like a sub DPS while still doing damage and just like control buffs, good buffs. You know, I think it would be maybe, I don't know, maybe a little nicer if it was a defense up here, because then she would boost her own damage. But, I mean, can't complain. Very strong abilities from Tsukiyo Mi. All right, Rosa. So Rosa's skill 1 deals 3 hits of 70% damage to a single enemy. If the final hit is a crit, has a 50% chance to reduce the target's turn meter by 10%. Okay, so turn meter reduction on the skill 1, not bad, but it needs a crit. Okay, so she has a passive. Every time she lands a crit, if the target is not afflicted with Bladeheart Bloom, she inflicts a 1-turn Bladeheart Bloom on them. Okay, so if she crits, she lands this unique debuff where they take 15% extra damage from basic attacks. When the carrier takes a crit hit as the main target, Rosa does a follow-up attack on them with her basic attack. Wow, okay, so this is 1 time per turn. Very cool. So anytime the enemy with this takes a basic attack, they're taking 15% extra damage, and then Rosa is also coming in and doing an additional attack with her skill 1, potentially reducing the turn meter by 10%. Very nice. On her skill 3, she gives herself a crit rate up. That's awesome. And this is on a 3-turn cooldown, so you only need to build her with 70% crit rate. Deals 3 hits of 120% damage to all enemies, with crits having a 40% chance to inflict a 2-turn speed down on them. Very nice. Now, the multipliers seem to be a little low, but, I mean, her debuff is good on the passive, so I think she's going to be getting in more hits than you probably think, and the built-in increased crit rate is pretty nice. So, yeah, kind of... I would say she's selfish because she does have the speed down, but she only gives crit rate to herself. I don't know. Kind of interesting. But I've heard good things about her, so maybe on paper she doesn't read as like fantastic, but maybe she's better than I thought. All right, almost finished here, people. Moving on to green. Now, some of these heroes I can actually speak on. You know, I've used some of these heroes like Lian. Everyone's aware of Lingluo, Bjorn. I've used these next couple. I have used pretty extensively, minus the LDs. I didn't want to use them in the beta because I think most of them are OP and most people know that. But Kloss, which is our first green unit, man, this hero, I love this hero. I think she is so good. I really do. So, on her skill 1, she has a 70% chance to inflict a stack of this hacking progress. This is an amazing, amazing unique debuff. I can't state that enough, okay? So, what this hacking progress does, for each stack, and this, this skill 1 adds 1 stack of it at a 7% chance. So each stack increases their damage taken by 5%, decreases the amount of damage that they deal by 10%, and decreases their speed by 4%. So 3 things tied into 1 debuff. And then at 3 stacks, all of those hacking progress stacks are consumed, and then it turns into a 2-turn hack-in. Now, hack-in increases the damage taken by 25%, damage dealt, so reduces their damage by 40% and their speed by 20%, and it can't be purified. Like, hack-in is so amazing. This has helped me beat so many bosses and progress so far. It's absolutely amazing. And the rest of her kit is also very good. Okay, so on her skill 2, 220% damage to all enemies with a 75% chance to inflict one of those hacking progress stacks. Also, an 80% chance to steal the target's turn meter, everyone's turn meter, and redistribute it amongst all allies. Every one stack of hacking progress increases the stealing amount by 10%, and hacking counting as 4 stacks. Like, this is amazing. Turn meter boost by stealing theirs, and then every stack of hacking progress or hack-in that they added really ramps up the turn meter stealing. And on top of that, it's also inflicting the hacking progress. So just like an amazing skill 2 as well. And their skill 3 is 100% 2-turn defense down with 2 stacks of hacking progress. So awesome. Like, this hero, I cannot understate how great this hero is. Like, as a debuffer that puts a debuff on enemies that increases their damage taken, reduces, like, to everyone that is attacking that enemy or taking damage from it, it just makes that enemy useless and decreases their speed by 20%. Is so cool. Now, another thing that you got to look at here is Kloss's speed is 118. She is cooking. So she's going to loop real fast. She's going to get a lot of those stacks up really quick. She's so good. I really, really like Kloss. Now, Celin's, I think, is probably, at least in my opinion, the only bad SSR. She has, like, weird randomness to her, which really doesn't work in her favor, but anyway. So she does a single target damage dealing ability here with 40% chance to randomly inflict 2 of these debuffs to someone. So silence or forgetfulness. Now the problem is if you're going up against a boss, this does nothing. And if you're going up against, someone in PvP and they don't have like a passive or something, you inflict DOT. Like, it's not good, right? The randomness does not work in her favor, and also the abilities, they're not great. Her passive, however, is pretty good. So at the end of the turn, if she's able to take an action, she applies Aqua Shield equal to 12% of her HP to all allies, lasting until the start of her next turn. So every time she takes a turn, if she's not controlled, she's going to put this Aqua Shield up, which is really good. So shield equal to 12% of her max HP. And what that shield does is it absorbs 50% damage. So it's like a 50% damage reduction. And then it also reflects back 85% of the damage. So this is like the only reason to use her, because the other stuff just stinks. So she's got an AoE with an attack down and forgetfulness, which is no passives, but it's only a 30% chance rate. Like, her whole kit stinks other than her passive. So, like, this is her only reason to use her, and it's not good enough, in my opinion. Yeah, she's like the one bad SSR that I've seen so far. Now, Rilmoka is another hero that is just, she is bonkers. I truly believe that she is in the running with Tiamat for the hero that you should select from your selective summon, because she makes Doki Doki Gear Dungeon a breeze. It's insane how much damage she does. Okay, so let's talk about her, because then you'll understand. So she has a 260% damage multiplier with a 40% chance to put speed down on the target. So already pretty good. She also has one of those skill 1 passives where it reduces all of her skill cooldowns by 1 turn after each kill. So if she kills 2 enemies, then she reduces her skills by 2 turns. That's already awesome, okay? So that means that she's probably going to be reducing her skill 2 and skill 3 fairly often. So her skill 2 is a 280% damage AoE, and then for every 1 HP that the target has lost, the final damage is increased by an additional percentage. And then after attacking, Rilmoka recovers 70% of her lost HP. Like, it's just a 70% like a top up for this hero on a 3-turn cooldown, which gets reduced if she kills any of the enemies, right? Now this skill 3, holy bejesus, okay? She deals 3 hits of 180% damage to a single target, with the first hit having a 75% chance to stun, so it's a stun, but then after attacking, she deals splash damage to all enemies equal to 33% of the total damage, and then if the first 3 hits kill the target, the splash damage ratio will be increased to 100%. This hero, like, reading this on paper doesn't sound like it's dealing a lot of damage. She is a better wave clearer than Lian. Hands down. This skill does crazy amounts of damage. Like, just going after one of the targets. If they have, like, a defense down or something, it's going to one-shot something. Like, she will one-shot and then do, I don't know, 50%, 60% of all of the remaining targets' HP. And because she killed one of those heroes, this goes from a 3-turn cooldown down to a 2-turn cooldown. Like, she is able to use this ability so often. It's insane. Real Mocha, on launch, I might choose her from the selective summon. But I have a different approach on selective summon, which I'll have at a later video. But Real Mocha is amazing. All right. Lilith. She deals damage equal to 20% of her max HP. So nothing really tied to her attack stat. Just 20% of her max HP to a single target. And then after attack, there's a 20% chance to gain an extra turn. Whoa. Okay. That's a really good skill 1. Skill 2 deals damage equal to 20% of her max HP to all enemies, and then 100% chance to inflict a 2-turn speed down on all targets, and then detonate Graceful Mischief on the main target, setting turn meter back 100%. Whoa! Okay, so big AoE hit based on her max HP with a 2-turn speed down, and then there is a unique debuff called Graceful Mischief, where it explodes when removed, dealing indirect damage equal to 30% of her max HP. Whoa. Okay, so I take it on the skill 3, Graceful Mischief is something that she applies. So this will do 50% of her max HP to the main target. And then you stun the target and push their turn meter back by 100%. Oh my gosh, this is an amazing skill. Holy cow. Like, big damage, big speed down. And on top of that, one of the targets is getting pushed back by 100% and stunned. And taking an additional big 30% of her max HP hit. Wow, that is so cool. That's really good. Okay, third ability. Deals damage equal to 15% of her max HP to all enemies, and then there's a 100% chance to inflict Graceful Mischief on all targets. That detonates after 2 turns, and then immediately gains 1 extra turn. Holy cow! Wow! This ability is nuts! Extra turn, so the 4-turn cooldown is basically a 3-turn cooldown. Grants this Graceful Mischief, makes this skill amazing. Jeez. And then they have 1 turn to do something before they're all stunned. This hero's nuts. I can't believe I've never even heard of this hero. Yeah, Lilith is dope. So Rahu, this is the hero that you will get for free after you get Lingluo. So he's got his own share of tasks on the second week, so you can get him for free. That's pretty cool. And I've used him a lot too, and he is also very good. Okay, so his skill 1 deals damage equal to 320% of his defense. So just like Tsukiyo Mi, he scales purely off of defense, has nothing to do with his attack. And then he has a 60% chance to inflict a 1-turn defense down. So the 1-turn defense down is not great. However, it does get applied a lot due to his passive. So, at the start of the battle, he gains 3 stacks of Wrath. Now, what Wrath does is for each stack, it increases his defense by 4%, and it can go up to 12 stacks. So, I mean, he can pump up his defense by like 60%. I think that's what it is. I don't know. Don't check me on the math. I don't want to do math. Can't be dispelled. And then anytime an ally attacks, he has a 50% chance to do a follow-up attack. However, it will consume one of the Wraths. It transfers 1 debuff from the assist ally. So whoever the ally was that it attacked, if they have a debuff, it transfers it to the target. And that's if he has 4 stacks of Wrath. So it consumes 1 more stack of Wrath from the assist ally to transfer 1 extra debuff at 6 stacks. So if he's at 6 stacks, he can transfer 2 debuffs. For every 4% defense Self has above the target, so if his defense is, 8% higher than the target's, it increases the final damage dealt by the basic attack by 1% at 8 stacks. Big, long spiel. Basically, he's transferring debuffs. He's dealing more damage while increasing his own defense, which scales into his damage. So, Wrath is awesome, okay? It just increases his damage output, increases his tankiness, and then gives him additional buffs or additional abilities like transferring debuffs and stuff. Okay, so start of the battle, gains 3 stacks of that Wrath, and then during battle, if he's able to take an action, for every 4 actions taken by another allied animus, he gains 1 stack of Wrath. So every 4 turns that someone gets, he gains 1 Wrath. Additionally, if another ally character doesn't use an attack skill, like if they have just like a buff and they don't do damage, he has a 60% chance to gain a stack of Wrath. So the Wraths really stack up quickly with Rahu. So his damage output is very good. He's tanky because of the high defense. You're building him really high defense. And he just, can transfer debuffs and all of these things, do joint attacks. So he's applying the defense down at high multipliers, 320%. It's really cool. Really, really cool. Okay, and then his third skill is he inflicts a 2-turn defense up buff, so that increases his damage, but also gives it to his allies, and then gains 3 stacks of Wrath, then deals damage equal to 360% of his defense. So at the start of the battle, he gains 3 stacks of Wrath. Then if he goes, he'll have 6 stacks of Wrath automatically. Yeah, really, really cool, like sub DPS with a little bit of debuff potential in the skill 1. Like, he's a very straightforward character, but what he does is very, very solid. I really like Rahu. All right, Freya, limited banner hero. This hero is just nuts. I think everyone should pull for her first. I talked about her in a little bit in yesterday's video, kind of, but we'll go over it briefly. She has this Dreamweave ability where if someone's inflicted with a debuff, it takes one of those stacks of Dreamweave and purifies it. So it cleanses it. She also has the ability to inflict Nightmare. What Nightmare does is it's just like a 15% damage amplification effect. And then it has like some built-in lifesteal to it. So then she has that skill 1 passive where every time an ally gains a buff, it increases their turn meter by 4%. And each time an enemy is inflicted with a debuff, it reduces their turn meter by 4%. So she has turn meter increase and then turn meter decrease on the enemy. It also ignores resistance, which is awesome. And then that effect can be triggered up to 3 times. The Dream God effect is doubled when Freya gains a buff or is inflicted with a debuff. So, if she has a buff, then she's increasing everyone's turn meter by 8% and decreasing it by 8%. So, yeah, like just an amazing ability. Skill 2, defense up to everybody with Dreamweave, that purifying whatever. And then also an 80% chance to apply an additional stack. So there's that. And then her skill 3, it's an AoE attack up for everyone, and then it deals 4 hits, with each hit having a 30% chance to inflict Nightmare, which will eventually push back everyone's turn meter by 8% based on Dream Guide. Freya, amazing, amazing hero. Really high base speed. She's great for PvP, like as your opener, to give everyone attack up, damage amplification, increase the debuff and their damage taken, pushing all their turn meters back, increasing the turn meters of all of your heroes. Like, fantastic hero. Like, she's hands down the hero you should be targeting. All right, guys. Whew. Wow. Thank you for sticking around for as long as you have. We are on to the LDs. Sania. Now, she is considered the worst LD, and I do agree with that, but I do think she gets a little too much hate, because I think she's a little bit better than what people give her credit for. But she is the worst, so that is true. She is the worst LD. Okay. Skill 1. She attacks a single target, 50% chance to inflict 1 stack of DOT for 2 turns. However, she does have a passive ability that anytime she deals damage, she inflicts 1 stack of DOT for 2 turns. So she's always applying DOT. That is good at 100% rate based on this skill. So that is huge. And then on top of that, like, she can stack up a lot of DOTs. I think this is really going to scale well in the end game, in all honesty, and I think people are underrating that. So under skill 2, it's an AoE 200% damage multiplier and extends all DOTs by 1 turn. So even more DOTs ticking up and extending their time. And then on skill 3, 240 damage, and then explodes all of the DOTs. So I actually think that this hero is going to be in a lot of speedruns. I think there's going to be enough DOT where she's just like pumping out DOT with other DOTers, and then like on turn 2 she just like explodes everything. So very straightforward, which is probably what works against her, but when it comes to DOT, there is no one better than her. Okay, Heinrich. So Heinrich is usually believed to be in contention for one of the best LDs, if not the best. And what he does on his skill 1, 240% damage to a single enemy with a 45% chance to inflict block. So 1 turn unblockable on skill 1 at a 45% rate. It's pretty good. High multiplier as well. And then he has that skill 1 passive called Reaper's Gaze. And Reaper's Gaze says each time Heinrich attacks, it has a 50% chance to dispel 1 buff from the target. So 50% chance to remove a buff, and if the target has no buffs, it has a 80% chance to inflict 1 stack of Last Words for 3 turns. And what Last Words does is it increases crit damage taken and the chance of taking a crit by 7%, and it can stack up to 4 stacks. So this allows you to increase, like, indirectly, and this is for everyone. It's not just tied to Heinrich. Increases all of their crit damage by 28% and reduces the amount of crit rate that they need by 28%. That's really good. So big damage amplification and easier to build your heroes as well, because it's 3 turns. It can be dispelled, though, so keep that in mind. All right, skill 2, 180% damage to a single enemy, then 180% damage to a random enemy, and then finally 180% damage to all enemies. If the target has no buff that can be dispelled, there's a 65% chance to inflict wound, so unhealable. So you could get lucky and have this hit the same character 3 times. You're choosing one. You have to get lucky with the random enemy, 180%, and then 180% here. Really huge damage multiplier, especially if you get lucky with the double pip on the random enemy, and then a 2-turn unhealable at a 65% rate. Also really cool. Skill 3. 3 hits of 100% damage to all enemies, with the final hit having a 65% chance to inflict block. So 2-turn unblockable, and then every stack of last words on the target increases the skill's crit damage by 30%. So yes, this is nuts. Okay, so not only is your crit damage on last words stacking up to 28%, but if it's at that 28% mark, then Heinrich's crit damage goes up by 120 additional percent. This skill like gets out of control. If you're able to have 4 stacks of last words on the boss, like it's GG. Heinrich is nuts. He's so good because he is a straight up damage dealer with really good debuffs. Unblockable is a very good debuff. Unhealable is a really good debuff, mainly for PvP, but unblockable is great for PvE and PvP. And then the last words debuff is just awesome. So Heinrich is really cool. Lily, another one of those heroes that's in contention for best LD, and she's very good. So her skill 1, 240% damage to a single enemy with a 50% chance to increase turn meter by 20% for herself and the ally with the lowest turn meter. Allies with Twin Trick have a 100% chance to support. Okay, so on the first skill, she boosts her turn meter and the turn meter of the ally with the lowest turn meter by 20%. So that's already awesome. Then Twin Trick, which is a unique buff, says after every Lily's action increases the effect holder's turn meter by 30%. So she can put Twin Trick on someone. Every time she takes a turn, the person who has the Twin Trick ability then boosts their turn meter by 30%. So this can only be applied on one target, but that is very strong. Then, what Lily is saying on this skill 1, whoever has Twin Trick on them, anytime she attacks with this skill 1, they will then come in and do their basic attack, the person who has Twin Trick. So they'll boost their turn meter by 30% and then do a follow-up basic attack. So this is this crazy skill 1, of course, but sure. All right, skill 2, this is where you apply Twin Trick to a target ally. Then you apply a 2-turn speed up to all allies. If the target already has Twin Trick, it applies 3 turns of crit damage up and immediately starts the next turn. So if you're able to loop this around, right, the person who has Twin Trick, because Twin Trick is just something that gets applied. It doesn't ever fall off, which is nuts. So then the next time this is off cooldown and you're able to put up Twin Trick again, if you want to apply it to the same person, they then get crit damage up for 3 turns and then gain a turn. So yeah, like no wonder Lily's nuts, right? Also speed up to all allies. Thank you. Okay. Third skill, 260% damage to all enemies with a 55% chance to extend all skill cooldowns by 1 turn and immediately resets all skill cooldowns for allies with Twin Trick. This skill cannot have its cooldown reduced. Holy smokes, man. Right? You got to be kidding me. Okay, 55% chance to basically silence everyone, except it's not silence, right? So I think this hits through immunities and things like that. I think I've mentioned that in a prior hero. But that's already nuts. And then if someone has Twin Trick on them, it immediately reduces their cooldown, like resets all skill cooldowns. Wow. Just absolutely nuts. And then this skill cannot have its cooldown reduced. So if you, like, Lily is kind of a counter to Lily, which is really cool. The fact that this can't be reduced, I really like that. Yeah, Lily is just absolutely insane. All right, so Messiah has a limited banner at launch. If you have 100 pulls of an LD summon, you are guaranteed to get them. So that's pretty neat. Let's see if he's worth it then, right? Okay, so Messiah. Skill 1. 2 instances of 130% damage to a single enemy with a 25% chance to apply vulnerable. So 30% raw damage taken. Then he has a skill 1 passive that says when Messiah defeats an enemy, he gains invincibility for 1 turn. If he already has invincibility, it refreshes its duration by 1 turn. And you can only trigger that 1 time per turn. So anytime he kills someone, he gives himself invincibility. And if he already has it, it pips it up to 2 turns. That is pretty toxic. All right. Skill 2. Deals 3 hits of 100% damage to a single enemy. The last hit also deals extra damage equal to 100% of the target's lost HP. Wow. The extra damage cannot exceed 350% of Messiah's attack percentage. So if the amount lost is greater than 350% of what Messiah's attack stat is, that's what the damage will equal. But this is, I would say it's basically a guarantee to kill something. So you're going to guarantee kill something, give yourself invincible. Seems pretty good. Okay. Skill 3. All right. AoE, 2 hits of 180% damage, so 360%. This attack ignores 70% defense and passives and applies invincibility. So a huge nuke that ignores 70% of defense. Wow. Yeah. So Messiah is just pure raw damage with a little bit of selfishness on the invincibility. But yeah, just from raw damage. The thing with Messiah that's nice is he'll work in any dungeon because he's light. Light heroes, they don't have any of the disadvantages and stuff like that. So if you're struggling on a water dungeon because you have Lian and you were lucky enough to pull Messiah, he can be your main damage dealer there, and he's just going to be pumping out crazy amounts of damage. Nuts. All right, last hero, Doki Doki. Whew. Again, thanks for sticking along. Here we go. 260% damage to a single enemy and gains 1 stack of backup. Okay, what backup does? Before another hero affected by a debuff takes action, consumes 1 stack to purify 3 debuffs. Okay, so the backup, if one of your ally units is about to go, if they have a debuff, Doki Doki will take 1 of these backup stacks and purify 3 debuffs from the unit. That's nuts. And applies 1 stack of data stream to herself. Okay. So then what does data stream do? Okay, we see it on skill 2 here. Okay. Doki Doki reduces 1 allied animus' skill cooldown by 1 turn 5 times consecutively. Okay, so 5 turn cooldown reduction. Each time targeting other allies with the highest total skill. Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha. So you don't really target anybody. It just automatically goes through 5 times to each person that has a high enough skill cooldown, and it reduces it. Interesting. Each time targeting other allies with highest total skill cooldown, and it applies 1 stack of data stream to them. So what data stream does is it increases their damage dealt by 2.5% and then increases their speed by 2.5 points up to 12 stacks, and it can't be dispelled. Wow. And this is just forever. Wow. Okay. So when Doki Doki purifies something, she then gets more damage and more speed. Pretty nuts. Skill 3, increase 1 allied animus turn meter by 12% 8 times consecutively. Each time targeting other allies with the lowest turn meter, inflicts 1 stack of data stream on them and inflicts 5 stacks of backup on itself. Oh my gosh. Okay, this hero's bonkers. So huge turn meter boosts. Data stream is amazing. Damage dealt, speed increase, and purifying. Amazing, guys. I really appreciate you hanging around for the entire video. I'm sorry it was so long, but there's so much to go over. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.